Hello again. In this blog, I like to share with you something about music and memory, which is a program that's fascinated me for a number of years now. So, the history of music and memory starts with a movie that was made called Alive Inside. And many years ago in my little theater in Fairfield, Iowa, they had a special showing of a film called Alive Inside. And I didn't have any idea what it was about, except I knew it was one of the winners of the Sundance Film Festival. So it was a little bit like an indie film. And the story of it was that there is a social worker by the name of Dan Cohen, who's in Long Island in that area. And it showed his research into using music and have that apply to people with Alzheimer's dementia. And what he did is he took these earbuds and earphones and he put them on the heads of people with memory problems. And he would record the music that they liked to listen to when they were younger. And there's one film called the Henry Video. You can Google that, see if you can find it. And it shows this gentleman who's a little older. And when he starts, he's pretty much kind of like drooling. He's just, for lack of a better way to put it, gone. And they had programmed, working with his friends and family, music from the 30s and 40s and 50s that he liked to listen to. And it shows when they put the music and put the earphones on his head and they're playing like Cab Calloway, music like that. And you see him at first, his eyes start to open, then they get really big. Then he starts to smile, then he starts tapping his feet, which is kind of great as it is, funny enough. But then after they give him the exposure to this music for about 10 minutes or so, then they have a conversation with him. Dan Cohen has a conversation. And he has a completely cogent, intelligent conversation with all his faculties in place. Now, that's pretty amazing. But the result is, because it was so instant, that this program has grown into music and memory, and some other people have taken on the mantle of spreading this. And this is in any number of nursing homes around the United States, where they'll take these earbuds, sterilize them, have them for use for many people. They will get out an Apple computer like I have with their laptop, program the sounds and music that these folks liked when they were younger. And they always seem to actually completely transform, be happier, and be changed. Now, one of the sweet things about this is that, at least in one aspect of the program, a gentleman that I met in Chicago was doing this, and he's training younger teenagers, some of whom have been at risk or having challenges, to administer this program to older people. And it's very sweet to see how the teenagers can support the elders, and they both get something out of it because they both can support each other and see the change. So that's a little multi-generational piece as well. I just thought I'd mention. Very sweet. But it's pretty remarkable to think that listening to music that somebody likes for 10 minutes or 15 minutes could create this kind of change. That's truly remarkable. And for years, I wanted to write a paper called The Neurophysiological Basis to Alive Inside. The Neurophysiological Basis to Alive Inside. Now, I've never gotten around to writing this paper, but you're listening to the first draft, because I'm going to give you my theory from a neurological point of view, what I think happens when music is applied. Now, we all may have known someone that gets stuck and they forget something. And sometimes if they hum a tune or think it, the way of expressing comes out more easily. And there's a film, The King's Speech, that I'm sure a lot of you have seen. And in The King's Speech, there's the king who's actually having problems stuttering. And his speech coach actually teaches him how to sing and actually overcome that obstacle. It's not exactly a memory problem, but it is a neurological block. So when you think about how is it possible, like what's really going on, think of the following. Here's my theory, is that you have music and you have this glial system that we've discussed in previous blogs. You have 100 billion neurons and 100 billion astrocytes. It's like this very interconnected system in the head that holds everything together. It's like light bulbs and the cables that hold the the Christmas tree lights together, so to speak, is the analogy I use. So when you have someone listening to a vibration like music, the theory I have is that memory is stored in the brain, and other people have said this too, and it's localized in certain areas, but it's also non-localized. In other words, memory is found in multiple locations in the brain, a little bit like redundancy. Think of all the interconnections of neurons, 100 billion times 100 billion. That interaction creates trillions of potential interactions and nodes within the brain for things to be stored, interconnected, and cross-referenced. So the theory is that memory can be localized, but it can also be non-localized as well. And especially music that is familiar can actually start to enliven and bring back not just that localized aspect, but to skip over even damaged parts and access non-localized parts as well. To the extent that the brain is so enlivened that even after the intervention, so to speak, and listening to the music, someone can have a completely cogent and clear conversation. That's quite remarkable. Like, what is the neurophysiology that is responsible for this? Before, we've talked about neuroplasticity and the brain being able to recover and other parts of the brain taking over parts that the damaged parts can support. But this, in a way, is another example of neuroplasticity and what can occur. So it's very, very exciting to see this. And I'm just thinking that wouldn't it be great, besides the craniosacral approach, to start to combine different modalities together. Now, again, I know from a strictly scientific or even economic point of view, you like to isolate things and say one thing causes another effect. But unselfishly, if we think about how we could work with folks that are already doing this program, doing this music, Alive Inside music and memory program, and then augment that by craniosacral therapy, so we have a basis of even healing some of the more damaged parts of the brain, that what could those two together in combination do? As I mentioned when I talk about multi-hands in the intensive program, what would it be like, as we're already doing in the spirit of the intensive program, having acupuncture and counseling and a number of different ways to support the body? What if we could add this modality of music and enlivening the memory in that way to what we're already doing? I think that would even more stack the cards in someone's favor. There's a concept from functional medicine, and it's called epigenetics. And what epigenetics says, this is very true even in the newest form of what are called telomere research right now, that's becoming more of a commercial endeavor, where telomeres are a part of the DNA, like the end caps of the DNA, that can actually be changed. And they are responsive to environmental change. So even behaviors can modify the expression of telomeres. And perhaps in the same way in terms of brain expression, that adding music, adding craniosacral, adding a number of other modalities can possibly change genetic expression and support the healthier outcome in a cellular way, in a neurological way. So I'm just excited to share this with you, and it's fascinating to see something that can get such an immediate result. And I'm just thinking that adding something like craniosacral therapy to this certainly couldn't hurt, but it could actually move more of our people that are older, even already that have, are advanced to some degree in their memory process, really help them change things and improve their quality of life. So I've been wanting to talk about this for some time. So thanks for allowing me to share with you my thoughts about music and memory. Thanks.